Welcome to our session on strategic leadership principles, and today I want to speak to you about strategic leadership. Now, carpe diem, seize the day. Well, we've all heard the saying. It's always given in context that complacency is not a winning strategy. Yet most of us don't know that the words were written by a man who held absolutely no trust in the future, who did not think strategically about life, who lived only for the moment. Now, the words carpe diem come from a poem or ode by an ancient Roman poet, Horace, and it goes like this: while we're speaking, envious times has fled, seize the day, put as little trust as possible in the future. Now, though strategic leadership is about taking hold of opportunities as they become available, it's just not living for the moment. It's about seizing the moment with the future in mind. And some years ago, I received an email from one of my board members. He said, "Here's an interesting story that I thought you might be interested in." The story is titled Strategic Change, and it goes like this. A blind man sat on the steps of a building with his hat at his feet with a sign that read, "I am blind, please help me." A creative publisher was walking by and stopped and observed that the blind man's hat only had a few coins in it. He dropped a few more coins into the hat and, without saying anything, took the sign, turned it around and wrote on it, and placed the sign at the blind man's feet. Well, that afternoon the creative publisher returned, walked by the blind man and noticed that his hat was full of notes and coins. The blind man recognized the footsteps and asked if it was he that had rewritten the sign. He asked the man what he'd written it. The publisher responded, "Nothing that was not true. I just wrote your sign in a different way," and he went on his way. Well, the blind man never knew what the new sign read, and this is what was displayed on his sign to passerbyers. "Today is spring and I cannot see it." Today is spring and I cannot see it. A small strategic change made all the difference to the blind man's future. We see by the creative publisher's action that strategic leadership is about seizing the moment with the future in mind. Now, Isaiah in chapter 54 and verse 2, we see that Isaiah picking up this concept of seizing the moment with the future in mind. "Enlarge the place of your tent," he says, "and let them stretch out your curtains of your dwelling. Do not spare, lengthen your cords, strengthen your stakes." These words both awaken us and challenge us to undertake a great enterprise. We are called to have an attitude and action of those who are looking for increase. We are called to be those who recognize that beyond the boundaries of our present borders, there are ample scope for growth. Optimistic strategic leadership and planning make things happen. Now, you may recall the film Field of Dreams. It's about a man who in the middle of a cornfield builds a baseball field for ghosts of bygone baseball players. Now, one line sums up the film: "If you build it, they will come." Now, the unspoken line is, if you don't build it, they won't come. Of course, he builds the baseball field and they come and the ghosts appear and they play a tremendous game. The optimistic planning of the film Field of Dreams dealt with fantasy. Optimistic planning in the church deals with reality. The adage is still the same: nothing happens unless you do something. If you build or enlarge your boundaries, they will come, and if you don't build, they won't come. Leaders who are willing to step outside of their existing paradigm, who stretch themselves through strategic leadership, thinking and planning, will seize the moment with the future in mind for the kingdom of God. Now, remember the publisher who changed the sign of the blind man. He had a genuine concern for the future of that blind man. The genuine concern allowed him to envisage a better future for the blind man, to seize the opportunity with the future in mind. This was demonstrated by his strategic action that brought about a change in the blind man's present and future fortunes. Corey Barfoot states, "Successful leadership depends in no small way on your willingness to seize on an opportunity for all it's worth." The very essence of strategic leadership includes the ability to envisage a better future and to plan for it. Strategic thinking and planning allows a leader to plan for and simulate a future in a rapid changing world. Strategic thinking and planning are the prime responsibilities of leadership. Thank you for listening.